Hello, class of 2025 and parents of our current juniors. I, Ms. Geis, am here with Mr. Fulton, and we are giving you an overview of college counseling for juniors in this presentation in advance of college night. We wanted to provide you with a timeline, a look back at what you've done, where you are now, and what's ahead, so that when you come to college night, you can actually dive into what we hope and know to typically be topics of interest for juniors. We will have sessions for you to choose from, everything from campus visits, how to make the most of them. Maybe you're still exploring different aspects of standardized testing in college admissions. Maybe you're curious what all goes into your application besides just your transcript and your list of activities. So how do essays and supplemental essays and letters of recommendation come into play in the process? Those are all the sorts of things that you will get to explore with us during college night. So in advance of that, we wanted to give you this overview. Who will you see at college night? You will see the two of us, and then you will see the rest of our very robust college counseling team. You see their names here on the slide. They are people with whom you have already come into contact. Maybe you've already had them as a teacher. Maybe you've had them as a coach. Maybe you had them as an advisor at some point earlier in your high school career. They are a diverse and passionate set of advisors and college counselors, and they have a lot to share with you during our college night presentation. So now let's take a look back at where you've been, what foundation you've set for yourself, and then eventually what's ahead. So these are different ways in which you might have already come into contact with us during your 9th and 10th grade years. We have hosted programs for students and parents. Maybe you've attended, maybe you've listened in. We have met with students on and off over the years to help you choose courses. We have offered guidance after the PSAT, and if any families or students have ever requested it, we have said, yes, come in and meet with us. Students, maybe you've dropped by our office with a question. We have loved getting to know you, and we can't wait to get to know you more in the year ahead. Which brings us to now. You are a little bit away from attending college night on October 17th. We have a lot in store for you this year. We will continue to provide you with resources to learn more about exactly what's listed on this slide. We know that you will be exploring different types of colleges in different locations, colleges that offer different experiences. We know that how to pay for college is on the minds of most families, and we know that one of the things that a lot of you are probably thinking about right now is, how exactly do I build this college list? Come to that session at college night if you're curious. We will also begin meeting individually with juniors during the school day, during your free period, maybe during lunch. We can meet with you before school or after school. And that's the moment where we get to hear where you are. Part of the theme of this college application process is that you are all moving in the same direction towards graduation and the time after graduation, but you're usually in slightly different spots. So some of you may have already visited a bunch of campuses. Some of you may know really well what your testing plan is. Some of you may still be figuring those out. Some of you may have a clear idea of what you think would be interesting to study in college. Some are still really an open book. So we're going to meet you where you are in November. We're going to learn more about that. And then we're going to offer you some follow-up information that will include everything from the creation or confirmation of a testing plan, some ideas of colleges to explore. At that November meeting, we introduced students to Naviance, which is a database where you can not only explore colleges and do searches in different formats, but you can also see data from St. Andrews students. All anonymous, but you can get an idea when you look at things called scattergrams, which are fancy graphs of students from St. Andrews who have applied to individual colleges. You can start to get an idea of whether you are in sync and a match with other students with your similar academic profile of testing scores and a GPA. Did students with your similar academic profile get in? Were they waitlisted? Were they denied? This is all really good information to help you create what our goal is, which is a balanced list of colleges where you have reach schools, target schools, and likely schools, all in the hopes of enhancing your number of options by the end of your senior year. Before you come to that meeting, we are going to ask you to do a career and aptitude test called U-Science. One of the resounding themes when we talk to students is, how did it know me? They are curious that it actually highlighted their strengths. And the thinking behind this is, if students can know more about their strengths, especially as they're considering college majors and possible professions, might they find themselves in a smoother path towards that profession? We just want to give you more information about that. Some students love it and embrace it. Other students take the tests and they say, thanks so much, I'm going to keep going on my other path. There's nothing that binds you to the results of U-Science, but it's usually of interest to students. In the second semester of this year, you will be matched with your college counselor. Again, you will have already had this initial meeting with either me or with Mr. Fulton. You and your family will have received a follow-up letter from that really outlines personalized next steps for you and schools to explore. So when you hit your stride with your college counselor in the spring, hopefully you've done some of the things that we recommended. You've continued to make forward progress through the junior year, and you are picking up with that college counselor who then keeps you moving along the path, helps you create summer plans for your work so that you meet especially your timing goals for your college applications, talks you through letters of recommendations and the process for requesting those, and really helps you set some goals for your summer before your senior year.
And once we reach the summer between 11th and 12th grade, we will host an application jumpstart program in early June. That's an amazing opportunity for students to come in and actually get started on some of the work that they will submit in the fall of their senior year. Some of the things that we will do is get students started on the application with an application overview and get started on many of the accounts that you'll set up, like the common application, and walking you through the sections and how to complete them. Students often get 80 to 90% of that work done by the time they leave one of those sessions in June. We'll also work on resume creation. That is a part of the application that many students often put off until the end, and it takes a little bit of time to remember all of the things that you've done from 9th grade through 12th grade that you will want to put on your resume. So we get students started on creating a format that works best for them, and they can spend the summer remembering some of those things that they've done throughout high school. And then one of the things that students find most helpful is really workshopping the college essays that become available to them sometimes by the end of your junior year, but most part in early August. We start talking to students about what is the purpose of the essay? What are the things that you should be thinking about as you think of responses that you might share and looking at the topics. Last year, we brought in admissions professionals from local universities, from universities here that are based in Austin or around the country to talk to students about how they might approach those essays, and it was very helpful. Once again, this is not a part of the process that students can complete at Application Jumpstart, but we want them to get started on it and to use their summers wisely. If you start to talk to students who have been through this process before, many of them would say, I'm so glad I got started in the summer before. Also, we are available for guidance and feedback about the college search and the application process over the summer. So please know that you can use us throughout the summer, even before the start of the senior year. In 12th grade, you'll come back refreshed and ready to hit the ground running on all things college counseling and senior year. You'll have regular touch points with your senior advisor through our advisory program, where you'll get to meet with them, ask questions. They'll begin to work with you on finalizing your college list and making sure that you have options in terms of balance. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the start of the senior year, we hit the ground running with you with those regular touch points and making sure that you are on track with all of the things that you need to be doing as we get started in this process. In senior advisory, we do everything from resume, essay, and application feedback. Maybe dissimilar to other advisory years that you've had. Senior advisory, there's often work that we have to do and get done in that time. There's also time to meet outside of that advisory, but there are often things that we do with students as a group in our senior advisories, but also one-on-one. In the fall, we also do an essay editing and application workday in the fall. That is a really good time for students to actually sit down and get a lot of the application work done on a day where they don't have any other conflicts during the school day. That is relatively new, and many students have found that to be very useful, and they leave that day saying, I wish I had more days to just sit and concentrate on this alone. And once again, essay editing feedback and application workday all in one day. You'll bring an essay to share and get feedback on, both from peers and from a college counselor or a senior English teacher or an English teacher on campus. We also offer opportunities for mock interviews for students who will have interviews as part of their college counseling process or college application process. So you can set up times to do that in your senior year. And then we also do an individual application plan for each student, making sure that they're aware of important dates, making sure that they're meeting milestones and target deadlines. And that's in agreement with you and your advisor. We want to make sure that this is an individualized process, so we don't set arbitrary dates and deadlines for the entire class. We sit down and work with every single student individually to make sure that these dates and deadlines make sense for them. Once again, as Ms. Geis said, everybody's working towards the same goal, but you might be getting there at different points, and that's okay. We will also have regular check-ins to monitor student progress and keep families up to date on where students are. You'll receive regular communication from us about where your student is and maybe where they need to be continuing to work in their senior year. Once again, continuing on through senior year, other topics that we help with students and families is support for scholarship searches and FAFSA completion. We know that financial aid, both merit and need-based, are important prospects for many families, and we help you in looking for scholarships both at individual colleges and university and those that are available to students on a larger scale. We also host a FAFSA workshop where families can come in and get questions answered by a financial aid officer at a local university if you have questions about how to complete that. We also advocate with colleges checking in, making sure that they have all of the things that they need from our students who are applying to colleges across the country, and making sure they understand the information that they're seeing both in your application and also of the curriculum here at St. Andrews. We write letters of recommendation for every single student, which are very personalized, and I think one of the hallmarks of our program, because we know students often so well as they get to their senior year, that we're able to offer very personalized letters that speak to both the strengths and the talents that students will be bringing to their campuses should they be admitted. At the end of our time of kind of the college application process, we begin to introduce our Countdown to College program, where we start to talk about many of the other topics that are going to be really important as students prepare to leave St. Andrews and home. That includes our Leaving Home program, which is a program for families to come and start thinking about what it's like to have a student leave home and the things that you can start preparing for as that begins in the spring of the senior year. We also cover topics in advisory about how to be a roommate, how to stay safe on a college campus, maybe even some personal things that students should be thinking about, mental health, all of those things that students should be thinking about as they prepare to leave college or to leave high school, and as they prepare to graduate from high school. And as we get to senior year, one of the things that we think is really important is the developing trust and relationships with advisees and families. This helps as you, as a family, make a final decision about where to send your student to college next year. And we offer the support through the senior year about leaving home and a successful launch to college. So much of senior year oftentimes is focused on college, but we want to make sure that we are offering support to make sure that you have a successful launch in whatever you do outside of St. Andrews. And that the hallmark and how we get that done is developing trusting relationships, which I think hopefully you would say has happened over all 4 years of your time here at St. Andrews, but especially in the senior year. One of the things that we will also touch on at our college night program is the idea of a balanced application list. You will see on the screen here what we typically consider a balanced list. That includes 1 to 2 reaches, 3 to 4 targets, and 2 to 3 likelies. We will be using a lot of information before we place the schools on your list in that category. Obviously, where you are academically with your GPA, if testing is a part of your application, we'll take that into consideration, and just general school selectivity. A school that admits 7% of its applicants is always going to be a reach for a student. So we will sit down and have, once again, individualized conversations with students and families to develop these categories, but it's really important that students and families begin to think about balance as a really good thing in their list. Please attend that session if you want more details about what you should be thinking about when it comes to these categories. But this is going to be really important to make sure that you have options in the end of your senior year. And that's one of the big things that we're going to continue to talk about this spring and also next fall. And then, just a reminder that there are thousands of colleges, and there is more than one where you will thrive as a college student. Oftentimes, students and families think about there is only one perfect fit for me, and that's really untrue. There are many places where you're going to thrive academically, socially, and you're going to be stretched to do new things and have new opportunities. So we want you to think about all of the options that are out there. Juniors, you've done an amazing job of learning about colleges, both on campus through our college rep visits that are happening, and then through your own research. We're going to ask that you continue to do that this year and this summer, and maybe even at the start of your senior year as we work to maybe create some balance on your list. But know that there are so many colleges out there, and we want you to expand your horizons and apply broadly to a range of schools so that balance is reached on your list. Once again, you probably feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but this balance piece is something that's really important and something that we're going to be reminding you of all year. Yeah. And then here's some highlights of our senior year, a timeline. Once again, August, when you get back after summer break, you'll begin those regular meetings with your college counselor and beyond, an advisory in your free period, before school, after school, whenever it works best, and the essay editing day that happens in early August. October, there'll be a FAFSA workshop that you will have the opportunity to attend. And most early application deadlines, both early action and early decision, happen in November. There may be some schools that have earlier deadlines than that, but most early applications take place in November 1st, November 15th. There are some final regular decision application deadlines that you'll have the opportunity to submit in January. Most of our students like to end, the fall semester having submitted most, if not all, of their applications. And we totally support that. And we know that students and families like to have that done. But there are oftentimes maybe one or two schools that have deadlines in January, and you can submit those before winter break. So just think of that as kind of some target deadlines for when your applications might be submitted. And then we get to February and we wait. For those students who apply early, you may hear back from some of those early application deadlines in December, sometimes January, but most of the regular decision application deadlines, you won't hear back from those until the spring. And in that time, we wait. You might be revisiting some colleges. You might be comparing some financial aid packages, and then you prepare to leave home. May 1st, for those of you who may not know, is the decision day, kind of universally for colleges and universities, for students to make a final decision on where they attend college next year. So even if you hear back from a school, from an early action deadline, you have until May 1st of your senior year to make a final decision. So just keep that in mind, that you don't have to make any decisions unless you apply early decision on where you attend until the spring of your senior year. So once again, using your spring to revisit some colleges, have some conversations at home about making sure that it's a good financial fit. And then, weighing all of the options that you have. And we know that you will have many. And then at the end of May, we'll get to graduation. But there's so much work and many things that happen before that happens. And we know you're excited about graduation.
Okay, so to wrap up our presentation that has walked you through the what and the when, we are going to bring it back to what we think St. Andrews does best, and we're going to talk about the who. This is a reminder that our process of helping students choose where to go to college and what to do after high school is relational and not transactional. So students, we're bringing it back to you. You are first because this process is about you. It doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. Doesn't mean that you should try to do it alone. It doesn't mean that there aren't other people who will want and need to be involved, but it really should be a process that involves at its core your soul searching and your self-reflection about what you've learned about yourself so far in life and what you think you want your next chapter to look like. So, students, these are the things that we ask of you. We want you to care about this. And we want you to be engaged in it. If you are passively floating along, I think you won't have as rewarding of an experience while you're going through it. And I don't think you'll be as invested in making a really great college choice for yourself or a great college experience for yourself. You've heard this time and time again, work hard and do your best. That looks different for each of you, but this is part of the theme of let's not have any regrets. There are a lot of parts of this process that you can't control, but there are far more that you can. And so if we focus on the parts of the college search and application process that you can control, and even on your school process right now that you can control how hard you're working, you can control if you're putting your all into it so that you have few to no regrets about at least that part of it. Open-mindedness is really helpful. Being honest about what matters to you and what doesn't matter to you. If you have been challenged before by deadlines and meeting them, we are going to help you work on that skill in this year ahead because while in high school, you might have experienced what we sometimes at St. Andrews called soft deadlines, where there are extensions. That is generally not true with college applications. If there is a deadline posted, they are expecting you to meet that deadline. And that is often the reality for life beyond high school. So we want to help you prepare for what happens after you leave St. Andrews by helping you become better managers of your time and being more organized about a massive project that you are doing. And at the key to all of this, your parents may be nodding along right now because we all know in life that communication is key. And so we are going to empower you to be the central communicators in this process, and we are going to help you do that.
And for parents, there is a place for you in that process. I know oftentimes you maybe hear from us that this should be a student-driven process, and that is true. But we know that you want to be involved, and you should be involved because this is a family decision. We know that you want to be involved. Let it be a student-centered process as much as possible in terms of letting students, be interested in schools and academic programs that are interesting to them. Be open-minded about schools that they might be interested in. A school that you've maybe never heard of doesn't mean that it's a bad school or a school that no one's going to take serious. Be open-minded about schools. Be honest about your preferences and family finances. This is really important to have that conversation right now as students and college counselors begin to think about, options that a student might explore. If you have those preferences and if finances are going to be an important part about where your student goes to college, it's important for everyone to know that as early as possible. And then meet any deadlines for your own paperwork. This is often things like early decision agreements and financial aid documents. Those are things that families, parents are going to be asked to complete. And as long as you're aware of those and those deadlines, those are the most important things. And this is a no-brainer, but to continue to support, love, and affirm your student for who they are and the things that they're excited about doing after they graduate from high school.
And what will the college counselors be doing? We will continue to develop relationships with students that we can guide them and have the good and the hard conversations that come with this college search and selection process. As we've said before, we will promise to offer guidance about college lists and give regular and honest feedback about where students are in the process and also what we think their prospects are at their colleges that they are choosing to apply to. We will not miss any deadlines for our paperwork, caveat, students, as long as we know about them. If I don't know about a deadline, I may miss it because it's been nowhere on my radar. Again, we have a relational process. We're going to be in communication about that. And we, of course, offer support and affirmation all along the way. We are firm believers here that this college search and selection process is in no ways a reflection of the value of a student, and it is in no way a reflection on how well students have done high school or parents how well or you have done at parenting your student through high school. There is a place for everyone, and that is so exciting. There are far more schools around the country and the world that have higher acceptance rates than denial rates, and sometimes that's just not what makes the news every year. So to wrap this up, every year I feel like families and students ask us, what's the secret recipe for this college search and selection process? And I think this is it. We are trying to help students find schools that are great matches. And in our minds, this means that these schools should be good matches academically, socially, financially, and culturally. These are the places where you are going to be able to thrive and really make the most of what is offered to you. There is going to be more at any college than you could ever take in. And so our hope and our goal is that we help you get excited by that and that you ultimately see more places than you could ever even say yes to as great matches for you in this process. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you at College Night on October 17th, where we will dive into even more of these topics, and we can't wait to continue to be in touch.